Hey now, welcome back to the Deadology Podcast from Pencil Hill Studio, New Paltz, New York. I'm your host, Howard Weiner. This is Season 2, Episode 25 of the podcast. Tonight we're going to time travel back to July 4th, 1986 for the Grateful Dead in Rich Stadium, Buffalo, New York. They opened up for Bob Dylan and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on that night. Today is July 3rd, 2024, so I definitely wanted to get this podcast in for the July 4th holiday. And I have no notes tonight. That's because last night I was seeing Bob Dylan in Mansfield, Massachusetts. I'll get into that in a second. So I'm just gonna wing it off the top of my head. I usually like to take a few notes to look at while I'm doing the podcast. But tonight I'm just gonna pop open a Sam Adams porch rocker. There we go. And just gonna improvise along here. I think I know enough about that show. I've listened to it so many times over the years. I can recall it like it was yesterday. But before I get into that, let's talk Dylan in Mansfield, Massachusetts last night at the Xfinity Center, which I think used to be the Great Woods, theater, art center, whatever they called it. Obviously, corporate America takes over all names of all venues these days, except for Madison Square Garden and a couple places. So I made the 3-hour trip from New Paltz up to Mansfield. My old college buddy from New Paltz, Phil, hadn't seen him and hung out with him in about 5 years. We're up there having a great time. Pre-show, listening to Garcia Band, Dylan, Freddie King, having a good old time. We missed a couple of songs of the Robert Plant. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss started. I think they were the first act. There might have been a warm up to them. But this is the Outlaw Festival, Willie Nelson's Outlaw Festival. Willie didn't show that, wasn't able to come. He was sick, pretty sad. He's 91. I would have more than even loving to see him play. I just wanted to see the crowd, be part of a crowd that gave him an ovation, just to pay homage to such a great musician, songwriter, musical ambassador, man. Willie Nelson, he's the man. But he wasn't able to perform. He might not perform this whole tour. I'm getting a feeling he might not be on for any of the shows of this leg of the Outlaw Festival. But Robert Plant was first. I've never seen Zeppelin before. Obviously means I've never seen Robert Plant either. But very, very cool set they did. We got a couple of Zeppelin songs in there. A very folky vibe to it all. It was great to see. I would definitely go see Plant on his own, like in a nice smaller venue. I think it would be pretty cool. By the way, this Xfinity Great Woods, it's really Great Woods. You know that the Xfinity had nothing to do with building the place. So beautiful venue, man. I was really impressed. Like a great place to see any concert. So we got Plant starting off. They got Battle of the Evermore, Gallows Pole, When the Levee Breaks, and some other tunes thrown in. Just a very enjoyable set. Great opener for Dylan, man. So Dylan comes out. And the last few times I've seen Dylan, a little bit, like he was playing great, but for the most part he's playing the songs from his latest album, Rough and Rowdy Ways. That took up at least 3/4 of the show, and it had gotten a little stale for me. I love. There's Dylan albums I love and obsess over. Rowdy and Rough Ways isn't one of them. A good album, but and the thing, Dylan got very comfortable playing it. He had just come out with it, and goddamn, when you're 81, 82, 83, just you can't mix up set lists, and some songs seem like they're getting away from you. So I'm not too surprised or that he would stick with the songs from Rough and Rowdy Ways. But I was so happy when I saw the first set list of this tour. He totally forgot about Rough and Rowdy Ways. No more songs from there. He just pulled mostly from the great masterpieces of his last of the albums from the second half of his career. So when I saw that set list, I was like, I'm definitely in this tour, man. And just the performance wise, it didn't disappoint at all. So Shooting Star, Highway 61, Shooting Star from Oh Mercy, man. What a treat it was to see that. That was such a huge album. I can remember the day I went out and waiting at the record store in New Paltz to buy Oh Mercy, and just how excited I was about that. I just had gotten to Dylan at the time, and just so many of these songs really meant a lot to me. Lovesick, Bob's piano playing was great. All these interesting chord riffs and improvisations. He was even playing harmonica, blasting it out, sounding very good and powerful vocally, which is why when I was singing the rough and rowdy stuff, I was like, I wish he was playing some other stuff, because he surprisingly sounds pretty good. So everything about this was awesome. We got early Roman Kings. I was very excited to see. Just Under the Red Sky, another of his songs from the second half of his career, from the album of the same name, Under the Red Sky, and all like very cool versions. So it was almost like a rocking show. Like, I don't know if you call a Dylan show danceable anymore, but this was pretty close, man. It was like get out of your seat and rock and roll a little bit. Even the cover tunes, Little Queenie, Chuck Berry, great selection, man. It was Dylan did it justice. And the cover song, which I think would resonate with any Dylan fan, any Grateful Dead fan, Stella Blue. When I heard Dylan was covering this, I really couldn't even imagine him singing it, because that's Jerry's song, and he just sings it in a way that really I don't think anybody could get into. But Dylan kind of took it and made it his own, man. Just the words of that song, really. Dylan saw this song and he really saw something there. He's like, this is my theme, almost like my theme song. It fit him so well hearing him sing it, and he sang it with like a beautiful tenderness, man. So it was such a great version. I think I'm going to Bethel on Saturday to see the festival again, see Dylan again, and man, I can't wait to hear that Stella Blue again. It was very, very impressive. So great. I think it was a 15-song set. It was. Extremely impressive. Dylan doing the songs that are him now. It's like it's hard to see him go back and do songs like Rolling Stone and songs from another lifetime. But these are songs which he wrote as an adult in the second half of his career, and these are like masterpieces. So it was a great show. And then Lucas Nelson followed, in the spot where Willie would be. And because Willie wasn't there, the most exciting option to me and Phil was to leave early so we could beat the traffic. There's nothing more thrilling. Well, I shouldn't say nothing more thrilling, but it's pretty damn thrilling to get a jump on traffic when you know you're going to be stuck in traffic for over an hour if you wait for the crowds to come out at the end. So it was nice to get a jump on the crowd, get out of there, celebratory on a high note after the great Dylan show. So great night, July 2nd, 2024 in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Now, Grateful Dead, 1986, July 4th, Buffalo. So before I dig into the songs of that, I wasn't planning on going to the show. It wasn't on my agenda. I think I already had plans to go to the Washington, D.C. shows. This was the either the third or fourth show of the tour where Dylan and Petty were playing, and then the Grateful Dead would play. I know on July 2nd, they were in the Rubber Bowl, and I think it's Ohio, Akron, something like that. And Dylan actually came on stage with the Dead and played Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, which was it's a decent version. You could definitely look that one up. It's worthwhile. A good version of Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. He also played with them in Washington, but that wasn't as good as the show in Ohio. But these were just like one-song things, and then he would play his own show with Dylan and Petty, and they kind of alternated who would open, who would close. In Buffalo, the Grateful Dead opened. But I wasn't planning on going. At the last second, I spoke to my friend Doug, and I'm like, let me go up there. Doug was on tour. taping his way across America, taping all these shows. And I'm about to drive up. I told my dad, "Hey, I'm driving up to Buffalo." He said, "Listen, don't put all that mileage on your car. I'll buy you a plane ticket." It was such a generous thing. It's nice to think back of these generous things your parents would do for you at times. And yeah, man, I really appreciate it. That was so great. So I took a plane up to Buffalo, got a plane ride there and back. And my dad's like, "Where are you going to stay?" And I told him I would find some Grateful Dead fans as soon as I got off the airplane, and I'd find a place to stay, no problem. I don't think he got the concept, but hey, that's the way it was in 1986 when you were, or the 80s, the 70s when you were part of this. It really was like a crazy brotherhood. You could go anywhere, and if you were a fan of the Grateful Dead, other Deadheads would take care of you no matter what. When something gets so big as it is now, I mean, there's still a cool camaraderie, but it was a tighter knit. It was like everybody was into something that just was so cool and was so happening at the time in the 80s. So yeah, I found some hippies, really nice people. Didn't get much of a good night's sleep because they were tripping, so I might as well just stayed up all night. We go to the show the next day. I'm bringing around 2 bags with me because I got a flight. I have to leave during the Dylan show, towards the end of the Dylan show, to catch my plane flight out. And Doug Schmel, my friend who's been on the podcast before, is going to meet me. Now he's taking a plane flight home with me, instead of taking the ride back from Buffalo, a little easier. So yeah, I get into the show. I'm psyched. They open up Jack Straw. It's July 4th. I'm going nuts. I'm like, this is great, man. I love this band. These guys are the best. It wasn't the best jam, this Jack Straw, so a little short. It was decent, no problem. Next song, Dupree's Diamond Blues. On a list of desirable songs, Dupree's is like right up there, man. So this is insane. I'm having the best time. Jack Straw, Dupree's Diamond. My first time ever in Buffalo. We're in Rich Stadium, and there you got Dylan and Petty, but it's all Deadheads. I mean, sure, some people were there to see them, but you look around, it was like any other Grateful Dead show. So the Grateful Dead were definitely the biggest draw. And this is where the good times stop in the first set, because this Buffalo show is the best and the worst of the Grateful Dead in 1986 in one show. It's so incredible. This first set is only 6 songs. They finished it off. CC Rider, Tennessee Jed, Brother Esau, Touch of Grey, end of set. It was disappointing beyond belief. If I had driven up for that, I would have been like irate. Just 6 songs and not even a big jam song in there. Terrible effort. Now, there may have been reasons for it. The band may have been in a little rush to kind of get through the show a little quicker because they had Dylan following. But also Jerry was sick at the time. Nobody really knew how sick. His coma was 4 days away. After the Washington shows, he would go into a coma. So we really didn't have any idea how bad his health really was. I'm sure that played into it. But yeah, so you just get this really brief set, nothing happening. And then set 2 is just the pre-drum segment is just 6 songs of dreams. For me, it's one of the greatest Grateful Dead segments ever. I listen to it so much, and there's not since it happened. This show, well, I think it was 38 years ago. I probably haven't gone more than a couple months without breaking out the start of this second set and listening to those first 6 songs. They're that great. And I think what changed here when they start set 2, and I'm going to play some of this stuff, is the gods interfered, the musical gods, because all of a sudden these ominous clouds came over Rich Stadium. I forget what the lake there is, Lake Erie, whatever. Just these crazy shift in the weather, howling winds and a rain with big drops. Now, it didn't rain for long because I don't remember getting wet, but the rain came, black clouds, and it was all of a sudden 40, 50 mile an hour winds. It was insane. So what this did when the Grateful Dead came out, They obviously switched whatever they were going to do, and they played Cold Rain and Snow to open. And Jerry is just sounding so sweet on this. And the band's upbeat. It's an awesome version of Cold Rain. Just put everything in the right mood. This was by far the best song of the night. And everything was shifting in the right directions. It was just like the weather guys just came in and said, let's give these guys a lift, man. And the Grateful Dead knew how to ride the elements of the universe. And then at the end of Cold Rain, they pop into Fire in the Mountain. I was freaking leaping in the air, man. I was so excited to see Fire in the Mountain. Fire in the Mountain, so Scarlet Fire, that's obviously one of the great combos, immortal Grateful Dead combos. When they did Scarlet Touch or Scarlet Hell in a Bucket, that used to really disappoint me. There's nothing like Scarlet Fire. Because when they didn't go into Fire in the Mountain, they tended to shorten the Scarlet Jam, or they would it wouldn't be the same. It would never be as hot going into another song. And Fire in the Mountain, just for instrumental purposes, blew away anything else Scarlet Begonias ever went into. So for me, not hearing Fire in the Mountain, but hearing Fire in the Mountain by itself out of Cold Rain, it was just incredibly exciting. And they rode the momentum that they started with the Cold Rain right into this Fire in the Mountain. And this Fire in the Mountain, it's only about 10 minutes, which isn't long for a hot Fire in the Mountain, but this is insane. The first, just the rhythm and the way the band's playing this with the energy and everything, all the energy in the stadium, everything is just, this is the Grateful Dead at their peak right now. They're just killing it. So the first jam's a little short, but Jam 2 and 3, the final two instrumentals here are just awesome, man. Incredible. One of the best Fire in the Mountains. And instead of trying to further describe this, let's listen to, we're going to pick up in the middle of the second instrumental and ride it right through the end. Enjoy.
distance runner, what you holding out for? Caught in a flash in the door. And one more. Give all you had, but you wanna give more. The more that you give, the more it will escape. To the thin line beyond which you really can't pay. Hey, fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain.
series of rolling peaks there. Einstein on guitar, Jerry Garcia. Man, I was airborne for most of that segment, man. So, such great playing. The band was just on fire here. And one of the reasons I think that this show really resonates with me is it's the last great segment from Garcia before the coma. He came back after the coma, regained a lot, went on to new grounds, but something was lost. You know, it was just this like a hang on to this moment because this was Garcia at his best. You know, from the pre-coma period. It's just he had this one. It's almost miraculous considering how off the first set was and how the set deteriorates after the second set goes down the tank and after drums here. This 6-song segment is just something that's just miraculous. Great Cold Rain Fire to open up, 2 Jerry songs, and considering he had I think at this time he had an abscessed tooth, the terrible health he was in. So they went down to Washington after the show. The 2 nights, the 6th and the 7th, 2 of the worst, shows. Just, it was 100 degrees and humid. And even to be out there, if they were playing good, is tough. But to have to play in that and being in the health he was, the Washington shows were just very forgettable affairs for me. And this Buffalo show was just unbelievable what he did here. He kind of let it all out for the last time before the coma, man. And man, just he was in such horrible health, man. When the doctors looked, they were reading his cholesterol and stuff. It was amazing that he was still alive and he made it through this and went on for another 10 years or so. So Cold Rain, Fire, Samson is next. And they just ride this wave that they're on. Samson at this time period, the jams weren't as long, but this one is exceptional. It's just a completely that they're on a roll here. Nothing's going to stop them. Excellent Samson. So such a great 3-song lively segment to start it off. And now we're set for the second part of this just mind-boggling segment. And this was probably pre-planned because now it's time for Farm Aid TV. The first Farm Aid from Austin, Texas, July 4th, 1986. Willie Nelson kind of threw it together. It's funny that I'm mentioning this now because Willie Nelson, the Outlaw Festival, Bob Dylan last night. Dylan's here. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan's at this show with the Dead. Willie Nelson's down in Austin, Texas, starting up the Farm Aid. So how that all came about was it all came from just a throwaway line from Bob Dylan when he was at Live Aid. Well, I shouldn't call it a throwaway line because it led to a lot. But when they were raising money for the famine in Ethiopia with Live Aid, and Dylan said something like, if they could just take, I'm just paraphrasing here, I don't have the exact quote, but he said something to the effect, if they could just take a little money and give some to the farmers who are suffering in America, give a little aid to them. It was a great thought, but some people took great offense that he would say this at a time that they're raising money for a famine. But actually, it turned out to be a blessing because Willie Nelson and some other people heard it, and they said, hell yeah, we should have a Farm Aid specifically for American farmers. And the following year, here it is, July 4th, 1986, Bob Dylan saying something, brought this kicked off the whole thing, Farm Aid, which to this day is going every year strong. Dylan performed at the Farm Aid last year, played guitar there for the first time in a long time. So it all started with just a line from Dylan at Live Aid. So American farmers are getting aid on a yearly basis thanks to Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and all the musicians who contribute to that. So here we are, the first Farm Aid, the Grateful Dead, have a little segment ready. And the beautiful thing about it, so the first part, the Cold Rain Fire Samson, the band's totally on, insane improvisation, just bringing the house down kind of stuff. For this next part, it's not so much the jamming here. The jamming is very good, better than usual. It's the way they played the songs. They played these songs perfectly. Wheel, Miracle, Uncle John's Band, 1, 2, 3, and they could have went into a studio and tried to rehearse these songs for a month. They never would have had it sound as good as everything was rolling at this point. They did such justice to these songs. I've heard better jams in Wheel. I've heard better jams in Miracle. The Uncle John's is very hot, but it's not as long as some others. But there's just a beauty to this segment. It's incredible. The flow, everything is there. It's just exactly perfect, man. For the occasion, they want to impress the Farm Aid crowd, all the people watching on TV, the people in Austin, Texas, watching on the big screen there. And boy, did they deliver for this segment. Just like unusual, just punctuality, perfect from the Grateful Dead. It was, there wasn't a bad note in this, and everything sung so well. And I'm going to play another little bit for you here. And Phil Lesh is going to say, hey, welcome to Farm Aid TV. Then Weir says something about Agrarian Nation, let's keep it turning. And just Garcia's playing the beginning of Wheel. And the tone of his guitar is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, man. I love the way this starts off. And even the little bits of speaking from the band. What a great way to kick this segment off. Let's check it out. Farm Aid TV.
Welcome, everyone, to Farm Aid TV. An agrarian nation. Let's keep it turning.
The Grateful Dead got it going on in Buffalo, and they're playing for the Farm Aid crowd in Austin and on TV. So they're definitely a great moment here. They're on their game. They know it. Everything's just rolling ahead. The wheels turning, and they segue into "I Need a Miracle." And this is one of my favorite versions of "I Need a Miracle." There's no long outro jam here. I Need a Miracle, when it first came out in 78 into the early versions, 79, used to have a great outro jam. And then they just pretty much cut it after 79. So it was rare to hear a good outro jam from Miracle in 79. The one outlier version is from the Cap Center, September 27, 1981. You might want to check that Miracle out, very hot. The best one ever, Springfield, January 15, 1979. But this version, as far as it being sung and just the way it's performed and the instrumental in the middle, we're singing like a madman and Garcia just hitting all the notes in between. This is such an intense, perfect version of I Need a Miracle outside of there being no outro jam. And I think on this, they were so hot at this point, they probably on a normal night would have went into some kind of jam, but they're just playing it perfect for a TV audience. Like, here's the best we could play these songs without stretching them out to over 10 minutes. And that's what this segment was about. And they 10 out of 10, man. It was perfect, man. Great wheel, and even better, I Need a Miracle. I think just purely from a song standpoint, this is the best version. And then they segue into Uncle John's Band, and just the joy that song brings on the heels of Miracle. I think this is the beautiful, another beautiful thing. You got two well-balanced segments here of three songs: Cold Rain, Fire, Samson. The only time those songs were put together, and I do believe this is the only Wheel Miracle Uncle John's ever. So it's like very, besides being brilliantly played, this 6-song segment, two unique 3-song segues here. So just it's such a brilliant segment by the Dead here. So they go into Uncle John's, and once again they're just striking the song exactly right tempo. Everybody's singing beautifully. No blown lyrics. Once again, this would be among my favorite Uncle John's. The jam towards the end is very hot. I love it. It's not as long as some. In the 80s, he really the Dead really went off on some of these Uncle John's bands. But once again, there's like this perfection from the Grateful Dead, which we're not used to be like this, just on the money. And but yet this Uncle John's Band is hot. Just yeah. Check this out, man. We got the Uncle John's Band here at the end of it, and just this, after hearing the Cold Rain, Samson, Fire, Wheel, Miracle, the whole thing building up to this, just a great finish to the segment. Enjoy.
Got some things to talk about here beside the rising tide. Come here, Uncle John's Band, way to the tide. Come on along, go along, please come and take your children home.
Buffalo Fireworks, Grateful Dead, July 4th, 1986, Rich Stadium. What a segment. I've seen many better shows than this Buffalo show, but just how these 6 songs have lived on in my life from this night, it's incredible when the Dead would play something like that, and just the tape or the segment of the tape would stay with you forever. And man, such a great segment. I'd recommend going to, if you haven't seen the video, they have a beautiful professionally shot video of this on YouTube. Skip the first set. You could just type in set 2 and start with that Cold Rain and Garcia's hair's blowing in the wind, and it's amazing, man. Check it out. Buffalo 7486 set 2. Oh yeah, they continued on. Drums, space, and wow, did it. The bottom fell out of this quickly. Drum Space, Give Me Some Lovin', Going Down the Road, Turn On Your Love Light, all really short versions, no jamming. Yeah. Obviously, either Jerry wasn't feeling well at this point. They did a U.S. Blues Encore. Either he wasn't feeling well at this point, or there was some pressure to finish up the show because Dylan was coming on, and part of the Dylan show was going to be on Farm Aid. Not sure what happened there, but the to say the balloon, the air went out of the balloon would be an understatement, man. Just after drums, it's travesty. I heard it again today. I was like, am I missing something here? Just, they went back to the terrible form they went in the first set. But man, that 6-song segment, man, just incredible. God bless the Grateful Dead. So, yeah. All right, I'll mention. All right, so we jump into the Dylan show. Dylan's next. Where I am at this point in my life with Dylan is the following year would be the year I hear Blood on the Tracks for the first time, and then I realize that Dylan is right up there with anybody. Right, the only Dylan, Miles Davis, Grateful Dead. He's right up there with the best. I'd always liked him. I liked Rolling Stone. I liked the Greatest Hits. I think I had Desire and liked the song Hurricane. But it wasn't until the following year that I really got the whole Dylan thing. So I'm there and, I'm enjoying Dylan because I respected all those songs, loved him. I think he played Rolling Stone, I saw. And I caught maybe 3/4 of the show. He's with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And, pretty cool. At the time, I barely knew Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I knew of them, and, but it wouldn't be until the Traveling Wilburys when Dylan and Petty and Harrison and Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison got together for the Traveling Wilburys. Did I miss somebody? Dylan, Petty, Harrison, Lynne, Orbison. That sounds okay. We got all 5 there. So, and after the Traveling Wilburys, they came out with Full Moon Fever. Petty came out with Full Moon Fever. And then I really began to enjoy and respect Tom Petty and went on to be quite an admirer of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers after that. So Dylan and Petty, I'm kind of enjoying it. But also I got to leave. I got a flight. I got to catch a flight. I got my bags. And this is 1986, so I'm going to hitch a ride to Buffalo Airport. And, so I leave about 3/4 through the show. Nice group of deadheads in a van going back over the line to, I think they were going back to Toronto, driving back after seeing the Dead. They picked me up, dropped me off at the airport. Everything's going cool. Now, two crazy things happen here. I get to the gate. I don't realize this at the time. I didn't have a watch. We don't have cell phones. This is 1986. I'm freaking hitching a ride and actually getting picked up. So I get to the gate, and unbeknownst to me at the time, the plane is already boarded, and they're calling for me on the plane. And my poor buddy Doug's freaking out because I'm giving him a ride from when we land in the airport back home, and Howard's not there, man. So, but I had a guardian angel, man. I made it by like 5 minutes before the plane took off. So I get to the gate, and I'm going to break out my ticket, and I had 2 bags with me, 2 like small bags, a Converse All-Star bag and an Adidas bag. 2 small gym bags, my belongings. And I'm at the airport, and I realized that one of the bags I left behind in the van, and this bag was now on its way to Canada. So the bag I had in my hand better have the ticket, or else this is going to be an insane situation. I zipped open the bag, and I was like, thank God. This bag had my ticket, had the money, had my license, had my car keys. The other bag had dirty laundry, toothpaste, a toothbrush, underarm deodorant. That was in the van headed to Canada. I was so relieved, unbelievable that I took the right bag with me. And like I said, Guardian Angel was there with me all the time through these touring years. Every sticky situation somehow I got out of. So the Dylan show. I've watched this. This is also available, professionally shot. I forget the section he did for Farm Aid, but I started watching it from the beginning again today. Not the best of the Dylan Petty shows that from that year, and there's a lot of really good ones. The Hard to Handle from Australia, which they did early in the year, spectacular, just great versions, one after another. And there's definitely some really hot Dylan and Petty stuff. This show didn't strike me. I think it was just the big stadium setting. Dylan didn't seem to be that into it that night for whatever reason. I didn't make it all the way through the video, but it probably wasn't even worth reviewing. But if you want to see, I'm sure Dylan fans know this, but the Too Hot to Handle video from Australia is sensational. Knock on Heaven's Door. They kill everything on that video. Remember You, and most of these songs they played there, but probably not as good on this night. But yeah, Dylan, what a survivor, man. Seeing him again last night, just incredible. Just how this guy, he is the greatest survivor in every sense of the word, as an artist, as a musician. Real treat to see him. I'm going to probably see him again Saturday in Bethel. Looking forward to that. And that's it for this episode. Buffalo, July 4th, 1986. And next week, got a great show lined up. David Davis, friend of mine. We're going to be talking about the Grateful Dead, Lewiston, Maine, September 6, 1980. State Fairgrounds. Sensational show from the end of a great fall tour or September 6th summer fall tour. I think it was the end of actually a summer tour there. And Dave he has a blog, Grateful Seconds. Look that up, man. A ton of great stuff on there. He's done a lot of writing on the Grateful Dead, and he's also working on a book, The Financial History of the Grateful Dead. I'm not sure exactly what he's calling it. We'll be discussing that. We'll have more details on that. But he's been doing incredible research, and the stuff, like he'll send me some information and give me little tidbits from it. It's just incredible, the stuff he's finding out, and it's an interesting angle that no one's hit upon yet. So I think it's going to be, I know it's going to be an excellent book. He's a great guy. Seen a lot of good shows through the day, so we're going to have him on the show next week. Lewiston, Maine, State Fairgrounds, awesome show, incredible sugaree. We'll have the musical highlights. See you next week. Thanks for listening. Happy 4th of July, everybody. And July 4th weekend, get out there and check out some live music. I'm your host, Howard Weiner. Peace out.